In this world we live in, we enjoy some amazing things. You know, I foremost love all the technology. I mean, I couldn't do my job without it. But it's kind of crazy, and you know, it's hard to get away from it. And it seems like things are so fast and furious that it's zapping our energy, and it's certainly taking away the time that we used to have to connect. If Cloudland Station is anything, it's a place that was built to preserve our relationships. And I think we've done it. And I think it's using some very basic, old-fashioned principles. You know, it's about getting people back to the simple times, is what we call it. Now, that doesn't mean retreat, you know, but it means have an oasis, have a place that you can escape that is bathed in, you know, natural beauty and fosters, you know, quieting yourself and being still a little bit. Not necessarily physically, but getting away from all the noise. And so Cloudland Station is a kind of an elixir for renewal. So when I talk about Cloudland Station as a kind of elixir, as a formula of certain ingredients, the number one most important ingredient is a place of natural beauty. And for me, I love the mountains, and there's a lot of mountain communities, but I wanted to add a key element to that, and that was to have a valley too, because the valley is where life is. That's where the creeks are, that's where the flowers are, that's where the bees and the birds, and it's a playground. And so the combination of those two make Cloudland Station, I think, a very unique and a special place. We're stewards of Cloudland Station. This property is beautiful, and as such, we have placed over 300 acres into permanent conservation. That prevents this property from ever being overdeveloped. Part of it being beautiful is not just the natural beauty, but it's also what do we do with it. And so I think another part of our formula is the architecture. And I just didn't want to do that wrong. I mean, we had to nail it. And so we've come up with a different approach, really, I think, which is something incredibly unique. We've taken this 450 acres and we view it as like a southern province, because it is. It's got, you know, it's got mountains, it's got ridges, it's got valleys, it's got coves. And we reimagine history here. And we have some amazing history here. We have the oldest cabin in the county. It's a Cherokee Chief's cabin that we've maintained. We've got old barns and spring houses. So there's already a story here. But we wanted to merge a imagined story into that, which was how would this property have developed over the last 250 years since late colonial. It would have begun with a mill at the crossroads. So that's what we did. So we have a water mill at the crossroads. And later on, maybe 50, 75 years later, somebody else would have come in and says, you know, this is a great place to maybe build a village. So they would have started with a one-room schoolhouse. And so we have a one-room schoolhouse. That's sort of the approach we've taken as we continue to develop. This behind me, there's a beautiful infinity edge swimming pool, and it's kind of designed to think, if you think of like a turn of the century, early 1900s cove, old resort cove. And so, you know, we have this architecture that kind of moves along a vector of time, but it also moves in a different way spatially. As you move from the village, the architecture changes. You know, you have town cottages and so forth. Then as you move into the valley, you get more agrarian, farmhouse type of architecture. And then as you move into the mountains and in the canopies, you have more cabin type and mountain home, traditional mountain home type architecture. So when you come out here, it's eclectic in that sense of time and variation of topography, but it all fits together because it feels like you've come into an old valley and you're seeing what would have taken place over 200, 300 years. And I call this whole approach to our architecture and how we planned and laid out the amenities and the architecture. It's kind of a story-based development approach. And I'm not sure it's ever been done, but we're very passionate about it. and I think it has truly enhanced the uncommon beauty we have naturally. So these simple pleasures, these simple things, like baiting a fish hook for the first time with your grandchild, or watching your kids play, kick the can under the stars, poke a fire until midnight with some friends on an outdoor patio. I mean, these are the things that we're losing. We have to be intentional about making the time and the space for it. They're still the simple things that we need to do to connect, and we're losing that. So we fostered all of that through the amenities that we built. We have a honor system sweet shop, and kids will come in there and grab stuff, and parents will come in because they know the kids didn't leave enough, and they'll throw some dollars in an old-fashioned cash register. And we've been doing that, and it just works fantastic. Never any issues. And we have a swimming hole with a rope swing and a dock, and we have caves, and we have waterfalls, and we've started an Appalachian Opera House, which is kind of like a big fan cave, if you will. But in the old days, every town that was big enough for a main street along the Appalachian Range had an opera house. They didn't have opera, but they had vaudeville comedy, and many of them today are just civic centers. Other playhouses. So that's what ours is. It's going to be a playhouse. Our village includes a coffee shop, a general store contemplated, and a little cafe and a town hall. So that's our country club. It's a country club without the country club. It's a place to gather. It's a place to connect and to have traditions. And then we have another area called the Orchards with bocce and croquet and a big fire pit. And during the fall, we take the TV out there and watch football games by the fire pit. So we also have this Lake Angela, which we have paddle boats and a canoe, and it's highly recreated. We actually have some other small ponds, which is great fishing. We have a tree house built by Pete Nelson, the famous treehouse master celebrity. We had him build it just before he was famous, so it was great timing. So all these amenities create an opportunity for us to reconnect through the simple things that they foster. Another ingredient that we think is very important in our elixir of renewal is to help build authentic community. And you can't force that, but when you project that and you invest in it, then it draws people that want to be part of it, and then it naturally occurs. We have great traditions here. We have some big events, and we have some small events. We have, a Firefly Ball once a year in a beautiful 1861 Amish barn, and then we have, your traditional, things that happen on holidays year-round. And we have a social coordinator full-time to make sure those things happen and they're done well. And then we also have a lot of small events depending on what our owners like to do, whether they're in art, music, drama, whatever. So the last ingredient in our formula is the idea that we can be somewhat self-sustaining and healthy in the way we eat here. So we have planted 150 trees to start with as our first phase of an orchard. We've had several years of vegetable gardening, and we've got bees, honeybees, and we're getting ready to add chickens. And it's a small community. I mean, we're not enormous, but relative to the amount of land we have, we can produce a bounty of great, healthy, organic, fresh produce for the people that live here. At the end of the day, Cloudland Station is about three things. It's about beautiful living, it's about healthy living, and it's about connected living. And that connected living is the most important to us. We do those things, we do them well. We're not just living, we're leaving a legacy at Cloudland Station.